Hope is the ultimate important thing in cancer care. I actually tell my patients, attitude. If you have the right attitude, you're going to do well. No matter how many bumps we have in the road.
We need to laugh in our visits and look forward to the next thing on their list and to encourage that hope. When we present standard of care options, we hope that they work for a really long time. But oftentimes the cancer mutates, it changes, and we need another option because the patient is still robust and doing well, and they want to live longer and have more time with their family.
And that's why you see patients willing to travel great distances to disrupt their life and their family life in order to try and find a better treatment option.
There's always hope. That's because the field of oncology is advancing so fast, and we have so many new therapies. So that is part of that hope, that we are going to find new technologies.
A lot of the drugs that will eventually become approved by the FDA as a new standard of care option, there'll be an exciting drug in the lab somewhere, and they'll put together a clinical trial. Phase 1 is where it usually starts, where really they're looking for what dose should we be using. And so they're starting at a low dose and watching for side effects and then increasing to a dose that they think is safe. Then they can move it on to phase 2. And phase 2 is really when you have it available to more patients and they're really looking at effectiveness. Is this actually working in the tumor like we think it should? Then the drug gets moved on to phase 3, which is really much bigger trial. And what they're testing is a new drug against standard of care. Is it just as good or better? That's how the FDA will then put their stamp of approval on it for all of us to be able to use. The phase 3 clinical trials were our initial trials that we were able to get involved in. And we did well enrolling on those trials, and we really helped patients have opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have.
I think that kind of led to an explosion in developing the skill set to get earlier and earlier drugs and earlier studies. And we've started approaching this very strategically. We've started having a blueprint or kind of a roadmap as to, here are the things that we need to do. Here are the personnel we need to have in place. And so now there's kind of this very dedicated growth.
And so we have lab staff and physicians and nursing staff that are highly trained to really know how to take care of patients that have a high acuity. So serious disease processes, treatments that can cause significant side effects. And so we need to be very careful to identify symptoms early on and care for them and keep them safe. Because that's how you actually improve care for patients. Not just that patient that's on the trial, but future patients that are going to have that cancer.
We are doing such a great job that we are getting known throughout the United States, and we are getting the opportunity to have trials and to be the first ones to offer those trials to the patients.
What we've really been excited about lately is we've even gotten into phase 1 trials, which are traditionally done at much larger academic institutions and not as often done at a smaller community center like ours.
It requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of oversight. It requires a lot of close monitoring. So our responsibility to the studies are to make sure that we're conducting the study as cleanly and as precisely as possible so that we make sure that the drug is safe and also, is what we're doing effective.
And really, we care enough about those patients to offer opportunities. That's why we've come together. Nobody made us do this. We wanted these opportunities for our patients. And so the team has formed, and you have really great buy-in from a lot of our physicians.
We also have an extremely supportive senior administrative leadership at Avera that allows allows us as physicians to bring the care to the institution and to the patient. We serve a vast rural area, and we believe that the cancer journey is hard enough. Avera has a strategy in clinical cancer research of bringing that research to each community.
If you look into research, it says that patients that are seen in rural areas or regional sites do not have that same level of care or life expectancy as people who are seen in more urban sites. But I think we narrow that significantly by having a regional approach.
Our local area, South Dakota, the surrounding area, it's very important to be able to bring those things right here and be able to offer that I think we'll find that people will actually do more trials if they don't have to travel. And I'm sure that's what some of the data is going to show us.
All patients across the Avera footprint could have access to these clinical trials. That's amazing for them. They don't have to fly to Texas. They don't have to fly to the coast to get on a clinical trial.
The future's bright for patients that have cancer. We'll continue to make strides for people to now do better, live longer with cancer.
Oftentimes with our patients, they're hoping that this treatment will help them, but really the majority of the patients just want to help someone else, that they're hoping for their grandkids someday or for their neighbors that if they are diagnosed with cancer, that what they're doing in the trial helps them.
We have more oncology drugs approved in our specialty by the FDA than any other specialty. And so it's motivation for us to keep up and to make sure that we can be at the top of our game. That's what we're trying to do, continue to push cancer care forward.
At some point, we'll see many more patients being cured, which is the goal of all this innovation and involvement in clinical trials.